Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Divorce Couch. I hope you can grab a coffee, join us on the couch for the next 20 minutes or so. And today we're going to be discussing the role of family and friends. So I'm Claire, and I'm a divorce coach living in Northern Ireland.
And I'm Jackie, a divorce coach living in the north of England.
I'm Simona, and I'm a divorce coach living in Germany.
Hi, and I'm Salma, and I'm a divorce coach, and I'm based in London, UK.
Great. Well, now you've met four of us. So we'll just unpack a little bit about today. So we're looking at the idea of the role of friends and family on our divorce journey. So the definition of a role is the function assumed or part played by a person or thing in a particular situation. And I think, when we were having coffee and chatting about this over the summer and different things, we began to notice that sometimes it's our expectation of things, and we all have expectations of friends and family, and everybody we know, everyone connected to us is affected on our journey. So this isn't just about us, it's about everybody in our world, and it raises all sorts of issues in other people at the same time. And we just thought this was a good topic for all of you listening to be able to put it into the frame of your world to go, oh, okay, well, that's maybe why this is, and that's where that is. So anyway, so we'll open up the discussion. Ladies, anybody wanting to start?
Well, I remember when we touched this topic for the first time, how this one has been experienced so differently. When I speak to Salma, she had a complete different experience in her set of friends and family than what I have. So I think this makes this come together so beautiful, because you know what, you people out there, you watchers out there, you might have an experience like Salma's, or you have an experience like mine, which was not, unfortunately, so good. In the aftermath, I now have understood that because they all come with their own story, they probably meant well, but then I perceived it in the wrong way. So again, it brings us back to expectations. Whereas Salma, I think yours was much more in line. It was much more supportive. So it was a better give and take. This is what I remember. But
yeah,
is that so?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think I was very blessed at the time to have, a really supportive family behind me. I've been lucky enough to live where I live for 16 years now. So a lot of my friends are very local. They were friends that I'd known throughout, the children. So I had a very close set of friends that I could lean on, and they're all very local, literally, within 2 or 3 minutes of where I live. And I think I was incredibly grateful at the time, especially since coming from the Asian community, that can be quite rare. It is still a massive stigma within our community to, even sort of venture into divorce, and even more so to be the one that says, actually, that's what I'm, as a woman, that's the choice that I'm making. So, and I meet women, speak to women all the time that, who don't have the support of their parents, who don't have the support of their families. And I often, I find that, that makes me, I suppose, fills me with gratitude for my own experience, that I don't know. I mean, literally, I remember almost being carried through that time. My family, sort of, not physically, but it really felt as if, they literally carried me through the 6 to 8 months immediately after and during the divorce process. And so, yeah, I still think that there's things that I can learn from that period of time. But yeah, I'd like to, like I said, we all have quite different stories, so it'd be interesting to see how it was for everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I think I found that my family and friends were very supportive. Had one really good friend in particular, but I think sometimes now when I look back and with different things that I've learned, you realise, yeah, I mean, my as I say, one friend in particular was there for me all the time. Whenever I needed her, she was there. But now I can look back and think, what a strain that must have been on her, because actually you're dumping, and you're just emotionally dumping on that person at whatever stage you're going through. And so you don't always stop and think either that actually they're dealing with their own stuff as well. And again, with family, I think you don't always think, especially as I've said before, mine was a very long relationship. So your family are also grieving the loss of that person in their life as well. But you look at yourself as, well, it's me. You sometimes lose sight of the other people that are affected by your breakup. I mean, as I say, I found my people around me to be supportive. There are still times, obviously, when you feel very alone. But I think sometimes to just pause and think as well about the other people and the effect that the breakup is having on them.
Yeah, and I know for me, I, at the same time, give or take, within a number of weeks, I changed my job, and I had started working with people that I didn't know in an area that I had never worked in before. So there was all of the learning curve of meeting people and doing things and transitioning from my home. And my faith is really important to me, and I had to leave my church. I chose to. I felt it was the best option for both of us, actually, that we weren't in communication with each other all the time. And so I then needed to find a new church. So I had a lot of change, like real change. And so I wasn't seeing the people in my world, because my last job I'd been in for 10 years. So they all knew me and I knew them. So I wasn't seeing them on a regular basis unless we arranged coffee or something. And none of my family lived near me. So my parents lived 5 hours away. And at the time, my sister lives 5 hours away. My brother lives an hour away. And so whilst they were very supportive, they weren't physically on the ground with me at all. And because I'm from the south of Ireland and I trained in Dublin, quite a few of my really good friends are in Dublin or in the south. So I find that the person that I am find it hard to pick up the phone, because I would be thinking, oh gosh, they're just going to think, oh, it's her again. And that was my own self-talk, but it was because I didn't quite know how to do this. And I think it's maybe easier to, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Salma, it's probably easier to ring a sister and go, I just need you around here, than it is to ring a friend, because they have their lives. And I think one of the things I found was that, I have amazing friends, like really, really solid, there for me in the middle of the night friends, but I don't know that I would have rung them in the middle of the night. I just knew that I could have if I needed to. But the circumstance that I was in with my breakup and my divorce, it rocks other people's worlds.
Yeah.
And everybody else looks at it differently. And so there's that sense of, I didn't think about that. And I don't know that I had capacity to think about it. Yeah. But I think, when I look back, it had a big impact on other people, because it kind of brought to their front door something that they hadn't expected. And it does shift dynamics a bit. But I find where I find it difficult was my expectations sometimes weren't met. Yeah. But I think my expectations maybe weren't fair. And I didn't know to look at my expectations. So I've learned so much at this point from all of that. But at the time, it was sort of going through the motions. And I didn't see a YouTube channel like this for somebody to raise an issue that it would have really helped. I just didn't have those questions or those ideas mulling in my head to think about it. So that's why we decided to do this today, because we thought everybody on this journey, regardless of the side, regardless of the reason, it impacts us all. Mm-hmm. And we thought, well, let's talk about this. Yeah. So tell us a bit more about your journey, Simone.
Well, listening to you, I'm not so sure whether I agree with all of this. So yes, on a professional level, I know that I'm not supposed to have all these expectations and that I'm giving myself my best support. But I was incredibly vulnerable, and I was missing the 100% support where somebody would just sit next to me from the people that were close to me. I'm so sorry. They wanted to help, or they wanted to make sense of it. And all I wanted was some emotional, yeah, that sucks. That's a very difficult situation. So what I can say now is, for this one to be met, it's really cool to find yourself a support group that's people that are going through the same stages, and you don't have to explain yourself. You can just jump right into, today was a shit day, I'm sorry, I just have to say it. You know what, sometimes it is bad word describing the situations best. And you know what, you don't have to feel, especially if you're not so easy with asking for help, which seems to be very common in our group, or with very tough women. They less likely reach out and say, can you help me? So they really hold back. But if you're in a support group, there is none of that, because we are all in the same boat. And it's for the time being, you're in the boat and then you leave the boat again. I thought that was a brilliant thing that I have joined. What did not help was that I was in a different country, and what happened in terms of divorce, because it was a different stage, my parents, especially my mom, couldn't understand that things weren't going the way she thought they were supposed to go. So I think this is something I want to throw out there. Friends and family mean so well in giving you advice and tips. You know what, why don't you do this? I can't believe that this is not okay. You need to go and educate yourself and find facts, because you know what, just because you have been through your own divorce or you have heard of somebody does not necessarily mean it applies to the divorce of somebody else. So take it with a caution, take it on. Maybe there is something really truthful in what they've just said, but maybe it's completely wrong and kind of like kicks you or triggers you in the wrong sense of knowledge. So, you know what, it's well-meant, but it sometimes gets you into the wrong direction.
And I think also with friends, you can sometimes find that if your friendships have all been as couples, then all of a sudden you're the single person, and you can sense that other people don't quite know how to relate to you. Mm-hmm. And so that you can feel people pull away. I was, as I say, I was very lucky again, because the sort of really good friendship that I had, that was a couple, and I felt as easy with like the husband as I did with, you know, my friend. They both welcomed me. They were both there for me, which was lovely. But there were also other people that you could sense they felt it was difficult. They just didn't know quite what to say. And I think people worry about, say, taking sides, where they feel they maybe have to take sides. And so, I think if you have got friends and they do want to be supportive, as you said, Simone, use Google. If you don't know how to do it, then use Google and find out, because, you know, you can see, as the person involved in it, you can see when your friends are sort of pulling back, and you do then develop other friendships, and you maybe are starting to go in a different direction in life, and the people that are really there to support you are the ones that actually, they get it, they know what it's like.
And I think when I look back, like when I say that, you know, I had a lot of family and friends around me, and Claire, you mentioned something, even having, I mean, I have 3 sisters, and I did think about, oh my God, you know, they must be sick and tired of hearing me. You know, I'm not saying anything different, you know, this for months and months, you're kind of, all you're doing is, you know, moaning and complaining, and, you know, like, and there were points where I thought, God, they must be sick to death. I mean, every time they see my number flash up on their phone, they're probably thinking, right, we're busy, let Lena turn this off. And these were my assumptions, you know, and like Simone said, you know, getting that support group around you, you know, like getting a therapist, it really did help. But I think one thing I did want to point out is to be, when you're in that place, you know, you want to tell your story, you want to talk about your emotions, and you want to talk about your feelings. But what's really important at that time is that at the same time, once you've processed those emotions, you want to start moving forward, even if it's in a very small way. And I think it's very important sometimes to identify the friends and the family members, or whoever it is within your support group, is, you know, who is there trying to, you know, there's a very fine line between sympathy and empathy, I feel. And you can get into this thing where, you know, misery attracts misery, or can't remember what the saying is that what you don't want to do is to be constantly, you know, yes, people want to be there for you, they want to, you know, help you, I know they want to take your pain away, but you want to be doing something proactive to start moving forward. So what you want to be surrounded with is people that in some very, you know, empathetic way are saying to you, yeah, I get it. You know, life is horrible right now. Life is shit. I get it. What are we going to do together to start moving you out of this?
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, to identify the people in your circle that are going to be able to help you move forward.
Yeah, but then you have to be ready, I guess. Now you have to be ready to now let anybody in to get you out of this. Sometimes it's quite comfortable to stay in that space.
Yeah, it is very comfortable, and you know, it is, you know, like I said, you know, we want to tell anybody that will listen, you know, about our pain, whether that is necessarily going to help us move forward. You know, in my own case, I felt like I spent far more time telling my sad story than I did actually trying to find, you know, a way forward. And I think once I decided that that was it, you know, everybody's sick and tired of hearing my sad story, I'm going to stop telling this sad story, and I'm going to start getting myself out of this, you know, like sort of massive black hole that I found myself in. And
I think you can even get sick of telling your story yourself, can't you? And you do come to a point and you think, oh God, no, actually, I've just had enough of that. I've got to do something about it and move on. Yeah.
I noticed as well that after a period of time, what I noticed was when I met someone for coffee or met someone for a walk, how I felt. And actually, energy and how we feel has a big part to play on this journey. And when you start to notice it, it does make a difference. So I started to notice that there were some people that were asking me about things that had happened and wanted to mull over and then remember things that happened again, you know, in the past. And I would come away just feeling a bit like, ugh, just no forward energy, just this sort of like, ugh. And when I started to notice that, it was like, oh, okay, well, that's not really going to help me, or it's not really where I want to be. I don't really want that. And then I started to sort of go, okay, so how am I with other people, and who are other people with me? And I think that's when I started to shift into maybe trying to do new things, to meet new people. And then I was just Claire. I wasn't Claire who was on this journey. I was just Claire. And so there was like a clean slate. And it is hard to meet new people and make new friends, but it does, when you do it, I think it creates an energy shift that doesn't pull you back, because they don't know your backstory unless you tell them. And if you choose not to do it, and again, Simone, what you were saying is you have to be ready. And all of this is about different stages that I noticed on my journey. And I started to notice the feeling I had when I left some people after coffee and thought, oh, okay, I don't really think I want to do that. I don't think I want to feel that. And that was how I started to slowly over time, just with things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as well that, again, an expectation of our friends. So one day, you may want to tell your story, and the next day you might be a day where you're thinking, yeah, life's great, I'm going to do this, that, and the other, and you're maybe chatting to the same friend, and they're sort of still on that page when you wanted to tell your story, and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to tell my story today, don't drag me back. So again, I think we expect the people around us to be on the same page that we are.
That's true.
So it's often, I would imagine, quite difficult for friends and family to just tune in to what it is we need at any particular point in time. Yeah.
And I think also, like Simone said, you know, family and friends, you know, they have your best interests at heart. You know, they're like, you know, but sometimes it's really important to actually not necessarily take everybody's opinions and advice on board. You need to rationalize and investigate and sort of see whether that advice is right for you, because everybody's seeing it from their own perspective, from their experiences, from the relationships that they've had, from, you know, their own belief systems. And so that advice that they're giving you at that point in time, although it's coming from a really good place, it may not necessarily be the right advice for your situation. And you really need to look at, you know, and consider the advice and go off and investigate and find out what is right for you, because every situation is different. You know, we can only tell our friends and family, you know, about the heartache, but there's lots of intricacies within a relationship that nobody else will ever be party to, and sometimes have an impact on the way that we're going to handle a situation or have a conversation or all of these things. And it's, you know, nobody else from, I mean, this is my personal opinion, nobody else outside of that relationship can really understand. Even though the relationship may have broken down, there will still be some things that are important to the both of you. And, you know, especially in, you know, in my situation, I suppose my family were incredibly angry at the way things had panned out. So a lot of their advice was like, oh, well, you should do this and you should do that and you should do this. And it was coming from a really great place, because what they were saying to me is, stand up for yourself, woman. Why are you like so pathetic and, you know, passive? But actually, that was never going to be me, because that isn't the person that I am. Yeah. And so it's really about, you know, not letting other people's advice sometimes make you feel bad about the person that somebody else thinks that you should be.
Yeah, and I think it's important to be able to say to somebody like, I understand, I hear what you're saying, but actually that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And so it's okay to say that. And I think it is about reflecting on yourself and what you want that journey to look like, what you're wanting the future to be like, and then having some confidence within yourself to be able to just calmly say, you know, as I've said, you appreciate all that, but you've got to do it your own way, haven't you, to feel satisfied at the end of it. Otherwise, you're just going to be coming back and sort of say, well, I only did that because you told me to. And, you know, you've just got to be true to yourself. I think that's so important.
Yeah, and I think that's a brilliant point to wrap up on, Jackie, that, you know, you really do have to dig deep and look within yourself, you know, do the things that make you feel empowered, and, you know, to have a support group, network around you that may consist of lots of different people and groups. You know, it's not just your family and friends, you know, to build that support network around you, whether that is your therapist, a support group, you know, to really sort of lean on. And as Simone said, to go out and educate yourself and equip yourself with the knowledge and the tools that you need, and to reach out to, you know, like groups like ourselves, to, you know, see how other people have coped with what you're going through, because there will be people out there that are able to assist you and support you through the hard times. And we need to be able to identify who those people are, who are the people that are empowering us and putting us in a positive state of mind once we are ready to move forward. And, you know, just to notice what's happening around us. How are we reacting to people? What is the energy that we feel when we are with certain people? And I think it's really important to sort of notice, when we've spent time with somebody, how does that make us feel? You know, are we walking away feeling relief, or a certain, you know, like we've offloaded, like, or are we walking away feeling worse than when we stepped into that conversation? Because I've certainly had conversations where I've been talking about my situation and walked away thinking, God, I feel even worse. You know, I wish I'd never had that conversation. So really, like, tune into how people make you feel, and, you know, spend your time with people that are able to help you move forward through this. So thank you very much for listening, everybody. And as always, we'd love to hear your feedback. If there's topics that you'd like us to cover, please leave them in the comments. And we will be back in 2 weeks' time with another topic that we would like to cover. So thank you so much for listening.
Okay.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.